Wearing a white t-shirt, his muscles bulged from the sleeves. Blonde hair fell across his forehead, just above his sharp gray eyes. Wendy was confused. She expected to see a skinny, awkward guy. Instead, standing in front of her was a man who carried himself like a movie star. "Oh, wow, Jason. Hi," she said. "Hello, Mrs. Rose. It's very nice to see you again." He extended a strong hand, which Wendy shook, and a spark ran through her body from his touch. "I was just telling Mr. Rose how grateful I am to you for agreeing to take me in for the next 2 years. It turned out to be impossible to find housing here." "No need for thanks, Jason. I owe a lot to your father, and like I said, just call us Ray and Wendy," Ray said. "Well, Ray and Wendy, it's nice to be in your beautiful home," Jason said, lightly kissing Wendy's hand. "Oh God, I see James taught you some manners," Wendy said, blushing. "He always said that you should be polite in the presence of a beautiful lady," he said. "A real gentleman. I'll show you to your room while Wendy finishes dinner." "Let's go," Ray said. Wendy's thoughts turned to Jason as she continued cooking in the kitchen. She was surprised when such changes happened. It was not only a physical change, but also his self-confidence. She felt Ray hug her from behind as she set the table. His hands held her waist, and his breath touched her neck. "Did I tell you that I love you, and that you are an angel? And have I mentioned how much I wish I had discussed this with you beforehand?" Wendy smiled. She couldn't stay angry with Ray for long. Despite his whims, she could not imagine her life with anyone else. Ray was a good father, a good husband, and never let a day pass without telling her how beautiful she was. "Keep telling me how beautiful I am, and I might forget that you screwed up again. Looks like I'm not the only one who thinks you're a beautiful lady, huh?" he said. "Ray," she giggled, pushing him away. "You can't behave like that when there's a young man in the house." "Yes, I was just joking. Besides, look at yourself. Who wouldn't think you're beautiful? They used to think so. I don't feel that way anymore," she said. While Ray's midlife crisis included buying a motorhome, for Wendy it was fitness. In her youth, she easily kept in shape, but she never managed to lose the weight she gained after giving birth to her girls. "Darling, you are incredibly hot. You are so nice." Ray insisted that she had gained far less weight over the years than she thought, and that it was natural, but her body did not seem the same to her for decades. Wendy was quite curvy, so she got enough male attention. Even if she no longer wore tight clothes, her breasts were large enough to attract attention. Wendy was glad they had a swimming pool at home. In the privacy of her own home, she could swim 100 laps a day with only her husband watching. She didn't want to go to the gym or take fitness classes because she didn't like showing off her body. She didn't want people to see her in leggings or a swimsuit. "I'll go get changed for dinner," Ray said. "Okay, I'll tell Jason that dinner is ready," she replied. She walked up the stairs to Cassie's old room. Accustomed to the fact that there were always 2 daughters in the house, Wendy became accustomed to simply entering rooms without knocking. Accidentally, she opened the door and began to say, "Jason, dinner is already go-oh." Jason stood in front of her shirtless. Wendy didn't even realize that she was shamelessly staring at this young man. He had a smooth, muscular chest. She looked at his sculpted abs. "Can I help you with something, Wendy?" he said with a grin. Wendy realized that she had been staring at him all this time. "Oh God, sorry, I should have knocked," she said, looking away. "Everything is fine. I'm used to this reaction." Sure, just. Dinner is ready. See you downstairs." She quickly left the room. Wendy leaned against the wall to catch her breath. What's wrong with her? Why didn't she think to knock before entering? But what worried Wendy even more was that she didn't want to leave the room. She wanted to stand there and watch him change his clothes. She wanted to see how he took off his pants, how he completely undressed in front of her to see him. This made her feel ashamed. She was old enough for him. Jason's stay may have gotten off to a rocky start, but Wendy needed to pull herself together. Trembling, she went to the kitchen. Ray was already sitting. She sat down next to him. She turned to her husband and kissed him with passion. Ray was surprised, but kissed her back. When they stopped kissing, Ray asked, "What was that? Do I need a reason to kiss my handsome husband?" "Of course not," Ray said, smiling. It was true. Wendy always found Ray attractive, and with age, he only became more beautiful. His salt and pepper hair was on point, and he kept in shape by running. Ray smiled with his eyes, and Wendy always found it cute. But at that moment, there was only one person in her thoughts, and it was not her husband. "Get yourself together," she told herself. Jason came down to the dining room soon after. He was wearing a short-sleeved shirt. Don't look at his biceps, Wendy thought. Look away. But Jason was handsome from head to toe. He undid the top two buttons of his shirt, and Wendy saw the same parts of the chest that she had seen in its entirety a little earlier. Now she noticed that he had full lips. Despite herself, she wondered how they would feel if pressed against her lips. What was Jason like when it came to kissing? Did he kiss hard, or was he more gentle? Wendy stopped her thoughts before thinking about how he could use his tongue. "Welcome, Jason. Are you settled? Is Cassie's room right for you?" Ray said warmly. "Everything is just perfect, Mr. Raymond." That's right. But you can just Ray." "Fine. Wendy, I owe you an apology. I should have closed the door earlier." "Oh." Blood rushed into Wendy's face. She hoped he wouldn't mention it again. No. It's my fault. I should have knocked." "What are you talking about?" Ray asked. "Well, Wendy came in to tell me it was time for dinner. And I was, well, shirtless." Ray threw back his head and laughed. "Oh, well, this is very funny. But it's good that it happened early. If you're going to live here for 2 years, we're going to have to get used to situations like this. Wendy, honey, this is what it means to have a boyfriend in the house." Wendy's cheeks flushed. "I really should have knocked. This is your home, and I am grateful that I have a place under your roof." "You can come into my room any time, Wendy," Jason said. "Oh, okay. Are you sure?" "Yes, of course. I don't mind." Wendy was sure there was a twinkle in his eye when he said those last words. The conversation turned to Jason's studies. He said that he enrolled in the MBA Master of Business Administration program. "I entered on a scholarship for swimming. I planned to take up swimming at a professional level, but my father's business was in dire straits. Therefore, he cannot afford to pay rent for me in this city. My plan is to get my degree and help rebuild his business." Of all the words he said, this was the most attractive to Wendy. It reminded her of young Raymond, who also started from scratch to provide for his family. So Jason turned out to be not only incredibly handsome, but also caring. Wendy came up with a crazy idea. "I'm sorry, Jason, this must not have been easy," she said, reaching across the table and squeezing his hand. At that moment, a wave passed through her entire body. She felt his fingers on her hand. She wanted to linger in this touch. "Thank you, Wendy," he said, taking her hand in both of his. Wendy quickly pulled her hand away. Her heart was beating wildly. It was like breaking some taboo. To anyone watching from the outside, it was simply an innocent gesture of support for the guest. It could even be perceived as something maternal. That's what Wendy told herself, too. But deep down, she knew that she wanted his touch. If she was honest with herself, she never wanted to stop touching this guy. She didn't care about her husband. "Well, tell that old rascal James that he doesn't have to worry about paying his friend's rent, okay?" Ray said warmly. "Of course, Ray," Jason replied. Jason helped them put away the dishes. "The least I can do is offer to wash the dishes," he said. He stood at the sink and got to work. As Ray and Wendy went up to their bedroom, Wendy glanced at his butt. His tight trousers hugged his buttocks tightly. "I'm definitely going to hell," she thought. In the bedroom, Wendy changed into a nightgown. Nothing too revealing. It had thin straps and fit loosely around the chest. Wendy specifically bought it several sizes larger to hide her body. Ray always insisted that many women would kill for her breasts, but Wendy didn't like to show them, especially now that there was a handsome young man in the house. "Jason is probably finished with the dishes." I'll go see if he needs anything before I go to bed. Good idea. Maybe you can catch him shirtless again, Ray teased. She threw a pillow at him. Raymond rose. He's young enough for me. That doesn't mean he's not attractive. It's okay, honey. You can watch. There's nothing wrong with watching. It looks like you want me to catch him naked. Ray was now smiling sarcastically. If this makes you kiss me like before, I can ask him not to wear clothes in the house. Wendy's heart pounded in her throat. You, Ray. Wendy, it's okay. You couldn't take your eyes off him at dinner, and I think that's okay. You are a woman with desires, and I am no longer a youth. You are the only man I look at. Ray laughed again. We both know that's not true. But I'm telling you, it's okay. Now go see if he's okay. Wendy walked towards Jason's room. This time she knocked. Come in, Jason's voice rang out. He looked like he had just returned from the kitchen. He still had his clothes on. Hello, Jason, she said. She mentally kicked herself for sounding like a high school girl with a stupid crush. Hello? And Wendy, I told you there's no need to knock. I'm serious. Oh, well, I'll try to remember that. I just came by to see if you needed anything. Actually, yes. Do you have a sheet? You see, I'm used to sleeping in just boxers. He began to unbutton his shirt. When his naked torso was again before her eyes, Wendy was again captured by passion. She remembered a scene from a movie. What would it be like with Jason? But you see, Jason continued talking, unbuttoning his pants, I like to cover myself with a sheet. Something light. Yes, of course. She watched him pull down his pants. Sorry, you don't mind, right? He said, looking at his perfectly proportioned body. You've already seen me without a shirt, I thought. Oh, yes. No. Yes. I mean, no. Everything's fine. She nervously twirled a strand of hair around her finger. God, even his legs were sculpted. Of course, he didn't skip leg workouts. Wendy's eyes widened as her gaze fell on his boxers. My breathing quickened. Wendy watched, fascinated. Ray was a great lover. Even after decades of marriage, he knew how to make love to her with such passion. But she always wondered what it was like for another man. How long could she last with a young stud like Jason? So, about the sheet? Oh, yes, of course. She returned to reality. What's wrong with her? It was as if this guy had hypnotic powers. She opened the closet and began looking for a sheet. She remembered that several sheets were on the top shelf. Oh, damn, she whispered to herself. Wendy was not a tall woman. She usually asked Ray to get something from the top shelves. Everything is fine? You're tall. Can you help me with the top shelf? Of course, he said. Wendy was about to step aside, but he stood behind her. She stopped breathing when she felt his hands on her waist. With ease, as if she were made of fluff. She quickly took the sheet, and he finally pulled it down. Wendy turned to face him with the sheet in her hand. They looked at each other and said nothing. I think I'll take this, he said, snatching the sheet from her hands. She felt his fingers on hers again, and a jolt of electricity ran down her spine. Jason finally backed down. I'm going to, good night, Jason. Good night, Wendy. She ran out of his room. Her cheeks were still red from their last encounter. If Jason's toned body was on display every day, it would be a very difficult 2 years. She will have to find a way to fight her urges or learn to live with the torture. Ray was already asleep when Wendy quietly entered the room and lay down next to him. Her thoughts suddenly turned to Jason, the neighbor she had crossed paths with during the day. Imagining him in front of her, she did not resist her thoughts, despite her internal doubts. At that moment, Ray, waking up, noticed her concentration and gently pushed her to relax and continue her fantasies. Later, after their intimacy, Wendy felt guilty and shared her experiences with Ray. She admitted that she felt out of place because she was attracted to a young neighbor, even though she was married, and it didn't seem right to her. Ray reassured her, telling her that it was no big deal if she was just watching. He even joked that if there was a young girl in the house, it would be difficult for him not to pay attention to her. In the conversation, Wendy also shared her insecurities about her appearance after having children, feeling less attractive. Ray replied that he still thought she was just as beautiful and suggested updating her wardrobe to make her feel more confident. Wendy was not entirely clear what exactly her husband was up to, but she decided to trust him, and they went to bed. Wendy didn't have the strength to face Jason the next morning. She skipped the morning swim so as not to see him. But while Ray slept next to her, she watched from her bedroom window as Jason walked out to the pool in the yard. He was wearing a t-shirt over his swimming trunks. He jumped into the water, did a few laps, and got out of the pool. Water flowed down his perfect chest. Jason jumped back into the pool, and Wendy thought this was her chance. She wanted to leave him a note and tell him where the milk and breakfast cereal were. She was hastily writing a note when Jason entered. Damn, it's too late, she thought. He held a towel in one hand and a t-shirt in the other. He was still wearing his swimming trunks, so this guy was just going to walk around her house. Oh, hi, Wendy. Good morning, Jason said, smiling his charming smile. Hello, Jason. I was just about to leave you a note. There is milk in the refrigerator and cereal is on the table. Great. I'll go change into something dry and go down to have breakfast. Cold. Oh, and Wendy, I know we have a no-knock rule, but you should know that I'll be there naked now, he said with a slight grin. She lightly slapped his bicep, enjoying the opportunity to touch him. She followed him with her gaze as he walked up the stairs, his firm buttocks moving under his swimming trunks. For the first time, Wendy felt that having such an attractive young man in the house might not be such a bad thing. Yesterday, she felt awkward looking at him, but now it seemed that Jason even liked it. He knew he had a great body and knew how to show it off. The rest of the day passed without much interaction. Wendy was doing chores, Ray was at work, and Jason left shortly after breakfast. He said he needed to pick up his study materials. Jason mentioned that he would probably be late as he planned to have drinks with his fellow students. Ray returned home with a small package in his hands. It's a little surprise for the evening after dinner, he promised mysteriously. After they finished dinner, Ray and Wendy hurried to the bedroom. I only bought you a couple of things, but if you like them, I can bring you more, he said. Okay, so what is this? This is for your morning swims. He pulled out a red and white bikini. Ray, I can't wear this. Can. I want you to feel confident in your body. Don't think I didn't notice that you missed your morning workout today. Wendy looked confused. I don't want to show off like this when there's a young guy in the house. I want you to show off. No more of those unattractive one-piece swimsuits. You will look amazing in this. She took the bikini. It wasn't particularly revealing compared to other bikinis. Perhaps she could try wearing it. Okay, what else? Ray smiled. I also bought you something for sleeping. He pulled out a blue satin nightie with a sheer top and tiny panties. No way, I can't wear this. Why not? What do you have to lose? Only your husband and one other person will see this. No, Ray, this is impossible. Wendy, for the last few years I've been telling you every day how beautiful you are. But since you acted with such confidence yesterday, I want you to always feel the same way. I want you to feel sexy. Wendy bit her lip. What if I look stupid and clumsy? This is impossible. What if Jason thinks I'm nasty? He raised an eyebrow. You're not going to do anything, are you? It's just a harmless demonstration, isn't it? Yes, of course. That's right. She took a deep breath and began to undress. Ray whistled. It's very funny. It's like you haven't seen me a million times. I've seen the sunrise a million times, but every time it takes my breath away. This is the chatterbox I married, she said. It was a thong with a small flap in the front. Luckily, the satin nightie would cover it up. It went down just below her hips, but Wendy knew it would rise as soon as she raised her hands. She had to admit she felt pretty sexy in it. What do I look like? I think, he took a step, that the young man in our house will receive an image for his fantasies. Yes, what about my husband, who always tries to play pranks? They heard the doorbell ring. Maybe you should go see who it is, he said. Wendy knew who it was. Just like Ray, her full breasts were ready to slip out of her satin nightgown as she approached the door. "Hey, Wendy." "Oh," Jason said as he opened the door and froze, staring at her chest. "Hello, Jason. Had a good evening." "What? Oh, yes. Great. Very good." He walked inside and Wendy closed the door. "Everything is fine?" Her heart was pounding, but with every second she felt bolder. "Ah, you look very good." "Oh, thank you. My husband gave me this little thing. Do you like her?" "Yes." "Feel how smooth this material is," she said. He slid his fingers into the hem of her dress. "Very sexy." "Ah, thanks." "Please stop now," she thought. Fortunately, he did it. "The top looks nice too. Is it lace?" "It is so," she whispered. "Ah, okay. Good night, Wendy." She returned to the bedroom, smiling. Ray was already in bed. Did he get a good look? He definitely did it. She said proudly, "I can't wait for you to tease him a little more. Anyway, I'd like to have some fun, but I have an early day tomorrow. Good night, darling." Ray fell asleep within 5 minutes, but Wendy was lying on her back. She couldn't stop thinking about how close she was to kissing him. She looked at her husband, now asleep. Once again, Wendy was overcome with madness. She quietly climbed out of bed and crossed the hall. She stopped at Jason's door. What was the plan here? If he wanted her, was she going to throw caution to the wind and break her marital vows? No, she couldn't do it. She wasn't going to cross that last line. But that didn't mean she couldn't have a little fun. What about Ray? He was fine with a little harmless teasing. What will he say when she tells him what she's planning? No, he didn't need to know. "It's not cheating if I don't have sex," she told herself. Jason's door was slightly open. Taking a deep breath, Wendy pushed the door open. Jason lay fully on the bed. "Oh my God," she said. "Holy crap," he shouted, quickly covering himself with the top sheet. Wendy laughed. "You said I could come in without knocking." "Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I see it. I came by to see if you needed anything. But it looks like you've taken good care of yourself." Jason blushed, but managed to smile. "Can you blame me? After you greeted me at the door, I needed to relax a little," he said. "Oh, I doubt it. What do you want from a fat old woman like me?" He looked genuinely surprised. "I hope you don't take this the wrong way, Wendy, but I think you're amazing. I always thought so." Wendy was speechless. Did he just say that because he was a little drunk? Did her outfit influence his worldview? "That's not what you mean." "Yes. Why do you think I always felt so awkward around you? I've been deeply in love with you for as long as I can remember." "You? What? I always thought you liked one of my daughters." "Yeah, I thought they were both really cute. But you? You're a woman, Wendy. The sexiest woman I know." "Jason, you shouldn't say something like that. I'm old enough for you." He pulled off the top sheet and stood up. Forgetting about shame, he approached her. "I don't care. I want you. And I saw in your eyes that you wanted me too." That urge Wendy had when she first saw him shirtless took over again. This time she couldn't resist. Wendy was about to make a huge mistake, but she didn't care. I'm married, Jason. This isn't right." "Then why are you here in the middle of the night?" She didn't have an answer to that. "Was it too painful? See me in my underwear? More than you can imagine." "Oh, Wendy could imagine. It's probably my fault." "I guess so." The wheels inside Wendy's brain were turning. Her heart was beating so fast that it threatened to jump out of her heart. "Lie down," she ordered. "We can't have sex if that's what you're hoping for. I'm not going to cheat on my husband, Jason. I love him very much." "But I'm not finished." "Fine. I won't cheat on my husband, but he asked me to make sure our guest is comfortable. It's not cheating if we don't cross a certain line, and I still care about my guest." "That makes sense. Go to sleep, sweetie." "Okay, Wendy? What was that? She was almost at the door when she turned to wink at him. Right guessed. She quietly closed the door behind her and snuck back into bed next to the snoring Ray. There will be plenty of time to feel guilty. She could torture herself for another day. She tossed and turned, thinking about what she had done. But you didn't lie, she told herself. You just helped him a little. What if she liked it? She knew the truth about it in her heart. The truth was that she was a woman of easy virtue, and this guy was the object of her desire. But she would explain it to herself. It wasn't a scam, at least not yet. No, she said, I need to stop this from going any further. We can have fun, but we can't cross that line. She couldn't remember when she closed her eyes. Her husband's rhythmic snoring lulled her to sleep, but when she woke up, Ray was gone. There was a note next to her bed. It's early at work today. Tonight I will bring you another gift. Love you. She folded it and started her day. Once she felt awake enough, she thought it was time for a swim. Jason had already seen her. The bikini didn't really matter now. Wendy put it on and thought about how she looked. The top was a little tight, but she felt more confident in her body than ever. She didn't see Jason in the living room, so she opened the sliding door leading to the pool and stepped out into the sun. She threw the towel on the sun lounger and jumped into the pool. Each lap helped her clear her mind, and Wendy made some decisions. She will continue, and she didn't tell her husband anything. I don't sleep with another man. I don't perceive him as my lover. I don't break my marriage vows. I'm enjoying it. He can have fun, and the husband doesn't need to know. But I won't cross that last line. Looks like the pool is busy this morning, she heard a voice say. She lifted her head from the water and wiped her eyes. Jason was wearing nothing but his swimming trunks. God, how his muscles shone in the morning sunlight. He looked like a Greek god. Every boundary Wendy drew threatened to collapse. A small voice in her head, a voice she had suppressed, told her to sin. Look how the sun glints off his tanned abs. Look how his eyes catch the light. Damn, how long can she resist him? Hey, stranger, she said, swimming to the edge. He sat down with his feet in the water. She held onto the edge where he was sitting. Jason looked somewhere between nervous and excited as he spoke his next words. So, last night, it was. Fun, Wendy suggested. Relief showed on his face. Yeah, a lot of fun. Are you feeling good? Wendy thought for a second. Jason's expression became tense again. It was difficult. I feel a lot of guilt, but I can't say that I didn't like it. Does that mean you want to stop? Wendy took a deep breath. That's it. She made this decision in the light of day. No, I don't think I want to stop. But Jason, my husband and family are everything to me. I don't want to hurt him. He can't find out. Yes, of course. Of course. And we can't do anything more than what we've already done. I can't you. You can't be, you know? Inside you. She shuddered. Whether it was the cold water in the pool in the morning or the thought of Jason inside her, she didn't know. Yes, I want you, Wendy. I know, but this can't happen. He looked a little dejected, like a puppy who has been told he can't go outside. God, he looked cute when he pouted. Okay, but we can still go swimming together, right? Wendy smiled. I bet Romeo. He rose to his feet and undressed. Jason, you can't do this. Why, my husband is not at home. The neighbors don't see here, and you've already seen it. It's true, actually. So, are we cool? Yes, yes. Jump. He did so, and they both swam several laps together. When Wendy finally got tired, she waited for him on the edge. She saw him gliding across the pool. The water rolled off him as he swam gracefully. Keeping your vows won't be easy. After a few laps, he swam towards her. They swam along the edge together, looking into each other's eyes. What do you see in me? Don't you think I've gotten fat? Not at all. I know movies make us believe that all men want skinny girls, but different guys have different tastes. What are your tastes? I have always liked women with full figures. I guess it has something to do with you, he said. With me. Yes, I fell in love with you. I wanted women with big breasts because you have big breasts. Every woman I slept with was a pale imitation of you, Wendy. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. He had wanted her for so long. Now you have me. He said. She said, yes, I'll take care of you while you live under our roof, baby. You know what I want, what I need. Wendy and Jason lay next to each other, naked in the sun. This is going to be a fun day, he said, which made her giggle. They didn't bother to put on clothes for most of the day. Ray walked over to Jason and Wendy, who were setting the table. Hi, darling, she ran to the door to greet him. Wow, he said when the kiss ended. Who are you and what have you done to my wife? Very funny. You better change clothes quickly before dinner gets cold. Yes, yes, Captain. As Ray closed the bedroom door, Jason scooped her up into his arms again. Jason, he's here, she whispered. I have to kiss you one last time before you bid him good night, he said. Wendy didn't want to stop kissing him, but they heard the bedroom door click. They quickly separated before Raymond could see them. Okay, what's for dinner? He asked when they all sat down at the table. Roast beef. And by the way, I had a handsome young sous chef who helped me in the kitchen. Ah, I see you both get along quite well. Better than you can imagine. Wendy was very welcoming. Jason winked at her as Ray loaded the plate with beef and vegetables. This is good. I want you to feel at home, Jason. Wendy and I are here for all your needs. Yes, we are, she interjected. Wendy squeezed Ray's hand over the table. She gave him a warning look, and he turned away, grinning. After that, dinner was mostly boring. Aside from a few longing glances, Jason was mostly well-behaved. He told Ray and Wendy that he had classes 3 days a week, and that he had a lot of coursework to complete. Ray told them about an upcoming work trip he was about to take. As they finished cleaning up after dinner, Ray whispered in her ear, I have something for you, in the bedroom. She smiled and nodded. Ray then turned to Jason. Hey, guy, we were thinking about watching a movie in the living room tonight. What do you say? We can sit down in something comfortable and meet you here in 10 minutes. Your house, your rules, he said. Wendy followed Ray into the bedroom. She closed the door behind her and pulled him in for a kiss. It turns out that spending the whole day naked with a young man ignited her sexual desire. Ray said, Whoa, easy there, tiger. Sorry, I'm really excited today. He raised an eyebrow. So walking around in your underwear with another man in the house is for you, huh? Something like that. Were you in a bikini today? How did it go? Wendy thought about it all day. She was going to hide her hobbies from her husband, but he seemed to enjoy showing her off. She had no reason to lie about everything. She decided to share the pieces with Ray. She left out some crucial parts. I felt so sexy in it, honey. I think Jason may have had his eye on me, she said. Oh. Yes, he was. I caught him looking at my breasts several times this morning. I can't blame him. My wife's breasts are incredible. Do you like it? Do you like it when a man half your age stares at your wife's breasts? Damn. Wendy, I think so. I like to show you off, you know that. You know, he told me he used to have a crush on me. He complimented my body quite a lot today. Oh God, then he'll love what I gave you today. He pointed to the package on the bed. Wendy opened it, and inside was a 3-piece suit, purple V-neck bracelet, and matching lace panties. There were transparent clothes. Looks hot, she said as she began to undress. That's all. I thought I'd have to convince you. Jason has seen enough of my breasts today. I guess that gave me a lot of confidence. It was the honest truth. Well, time to give the poor guy a good show. Jason sat on the couch and waited for them. He was wearing a t-shirt and sports shorts. Ray took his place in his favorite movie night chair. Wendy was the last to leave. Jason's jaw dropped to the floor. Hi, Jason. Hey, Wendy. Uh, you look. You look. He glanced at Ray, then back at Wendy. Beautiful. You look beautiful. Thank you, she said, and sat down on the sofa next to him. Well, friends, said Ray, today we're watching Jurassic Park. They got comfortable, and Ray pressed play. When they saw the first dinosaur, Wendy said, Hey, Ray, can you please bring me a blanket? It's getting cold here. Of course, dear. He paused the movie and brought her a blanket. Before he pressed play again, she said, Jason, don't be shy if you're cold too. You can share the blanket with me. It's big enough for two. She straightened the blanket so that it covered them both. Ray looked a little suspicious, but continued with the movie. Wendy couldn't believe what she was doing. She was sitting in skimpy lingerie under the same blanket as the guy she was having an affair with, while her husband was right there. But the day with Jason brought out something primal in her, something she thought was long forgotten. Wendy decided to take the next step. When Ray looked away, she put a finger to her lips, telling Jason to remain silent. Ray dozed off. Towards the end of the film, Ray began to stir. I don't think I'll be able to finish watching the movie. I'll go to bed early. Have fun without me, Ray said, getting up. Of course, Ray. We're going to have a good time, Jason said as Ray stood up and walked into the bedroom. When the door closed behind him, Jason kissed Wendy. Wendy and Jason had a good time. Wendy quietly crept into the bedroom. She sneaked past her husband into the bathroom. Wendy, Ray began to wake up. Go to sleep, darling, she said. Come to me, he replied. I'll be right back. No, right now. Please, he said. Before Wendy could say anything, Ray pulled her into his bed. To his horror, he kissed her. Maybe he was too sleepy to notice anything. I need to talk to you about something, he said. Okay, she replied, but she barely heard him. If something happened in this house, without my knowledge. Wendy's heart could have stopped right there. Raymond, listen to me. If something happened, I'm not a fool, but I still love you. Expensive. But I want you to know that everything will be fine. What? She was almost in shock. Do you understand what I'm saying, honey? If something happens, it will be okay. Was he saying what she was thinking? Did he give her the green light? Only one thing is important to me. As long as no hypothetical boundaries are crossed, and you come back to my bed, it will be normal. You know, where this boundary is, if this boundary is respected, and if my wife has become more sexual, I don't care what happens in this house. Ray, I love you so much. Tears were now flowing freely down her cheeks, but these were tears of gratitude. I love you too. I'm sorry I broke your trust, she said. You didn't violate it. After all, this is all hypothetical. That's right. I love you. I love you too. She gently hugged her husband until he fell asleep. The next few weeks were the happiest of Wendy's life. Jason started graduate school, but he was home most of the week. An unspoken understanding developed between the three inhabitants of the house. During the day, Wendy belonged to Jason, but when her husband came home, she belonged to him. Sometimes Ray didn't mind if Wendy stopped by Jason's place before bed to tuck him in, but she always returned to bed with her husband and had sex with him. One evening, Ray noticed a mark on her left breast. What is this? He asked as she straddled him. I don't think you want to know. Hypothetically, someone could. This was her routine, Jason during the day and her husband regaining his right in the evening. She had two handsome men, and they belonged only to her. But despite this arrangement, she never broke her promise to Ray. Jason didn't ask for more, but Wendy knew he still wanted it. How are your studies going, dear? She asked him. Graduate school is very stressful. I have to do everything to help my father. She felt a surge of tenderness. When did this awkward guy grow into such a caring young man? I'm sorry you're having a hard time, she said. But when I'm with you, Wendy, all the stress goes away. He kissed her on the lips. You're so sweet. And don't forget, Ray and I are always here if you need anything, she said. Everything you need. But on this day, they still violated the borders. I think I love you, Wendy, Jason whispered quietly. She froze. Wendy felt her blood run cold. What? I think I love you. Why did you say that? Did I say something wrong? We're lovers, aren't we? Jason, I'm married. It was just fun, but you can't expect me to. I love my husband. I know, and I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say how I feel. I love you, Wendy. Stop saying that, she shouted. She jumped out of bed and started getting dressed. She couldn't believe she had let things get this far. Of course, what did she expect? For her, it was just fun, but this guy managed to get attached. Wendy knew she had to end this now. I don't understand why you're so surprised. Are you going to pretend that you don't care? That you don't have feelings for me? The worst thing was that he was right. When she saw his eyes sparkle in the sun, she felt something more than just friendship. Wendy knew that, despite her efforts, she was falling in love. But she couldn't afford it. Nothing was worth ruining her marriage to Ray. Whatever feelings she had for Jason, and she certainly did, he was not Ray. He was not the person she had gone through hardships with, the one who put her happiness above all else. Jason, I think you should go to your room. This was a bad idea from the start. I shouldn't have encouraged it. We need to stop this before any of us get hurt. Are you leaving me? I'm not your girlfriend, Jason. I can't leave you. I'm just a woman who brings you pleasure and nothing more. And that's where it ends. She felt her eyes fill with tears, but she didn't let Jason see them. That's it, huh? Yes. Okay, he said, gathering his clothes. Jason left and Wendy finally allowed herself to cry. It was just a casual fling. Why did she feel like her heart was broken? Everyone was miserable for the next few weeks. Jason walked around the house gloomily, hardly saying a word to her or Ray. Wendy started wearing baggy clothes again, hiding her body. Her sexual desire faded. On the night of her breakup with Jason, Ray, as usual, proposed making love. But for the first time in many weeks, she refused. And she didn't want to have sex for a few more days. As a result, they stopped making love altogether. The passion left Wendy's life. The fire went out, and the situation was not improved by the fact that she and Jason hardly saw each other. I miss him, she thought, but what I miss most is how we laughed together. She saw him from time to time in the kitchen, when he would grab himself a sandwich and go to his room. They no longer swam in the pool together. Ray did a good job of not asking too many questions, but it soon became clear that something was wrong. 2 weeks after the breakup, Ray insisted that the three of them go out to dinner together. Wendy and Jason sat silently at the table while Ray talked about work. Then he turned to Jason. How's school going, Jason? Oh, okay. That's good. Do you like it here? Do you feel at home? Actually, I wanted to talk to you about it, Ray. I checked around campus, and a room just became available in the dorm. I think I'll move there, he said, throwing out cautious glances at Wendy. She felt like she had been hit in the face. What? Why? She finally spoke. Jason, you don't have to move. If something is wrong, we can talk about it. Ray said. Oh no, Ray, Wendy, you're both incredible. I couldn't have asked for better hosts. Then what's the matter? Wendy asked with desperation in her voice. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. Ray, tell him. She was already starting to sound a little hysterical, even to herself. Yes, Jason, you are welcome here. You are not causing us any problems. Thank you for saying this, but I've already made my decision. No, Wendy said firmly, you're not going anywhere. I already made a deposit. Sorry, Wendy. Wendy jumped to her feet. Sorry, I feel bad. I've lost my appetite. She ran into her bedroom. Left alone, she burst into tears. After a while, she heard the door open quietly, but did not look up to see Ray enter. Hey, honey. He put his hand on her shoulder. I need some time, she replied. I don't know what's going on, but you need to fix it. His voice was soft but firm. She sat up and looked at her husband. I don't know what to do, Ray. I don't want to fool anyone. If there are feelings involved, I don't know if I can. Do you love me? What? Of course I do. I love you more than life itself. And that will change if someone else comes along. Are you suddenly going to stop loving me? No, she listened carefully now. Love is not a finite resource, Wendy. You can love both fish and chicken. What are you trying to say? I say you can eat fish during the day and chicken for dinner, and it won't diminish your love for chicken. She laughed through her tears. As confusing as it sounds, it seems to make sense. Of course he has. Your husband is a genius, he said with a smug smile. What should I do? The last 2 weeks have been terrible. We haven't had sex. You've lost yourself, and I've never seen you so unhappy. You need to fix this. You need to be happy, no matter what. It seemed to her that her husband had just given her permission to love another man. Okay, I think I'll go see Jason. You should do this, and honey, wear this. A few minutes later, she was walking down the corridor again in her blue peignoir. Wendy wasn't sure if Jason would want to be with her again after she broke his heart, but she had to try. The door was ajar. She was about to knock, but heard crying from behind the door. She opened the door and saw Jason sitting on the edge of the bed with his head down, covering his face with his hands. Jason, are you okay? He raised his head sharply. Oh, Wendy, yes, it's okay. Come in. But he didn't look normal at all. His eyes were puffy and red. She sat down next to him on the bed. What's happened? I told you everything's fine, he replied sharply. Don't you dare talk to me like that, young man. Now tell me, what happened? I just can't do anything right. I'm crumbling without you, Wendy. I'm failing my assignments. I can't do anything right. Wendy felt sorry for him. Oh, my poor thing, she pulled his head to her chest. She hugged his head and began to gently stroke his hair. I never meant to hurt you, Wendy. I'm sorry. You didn't hurt me. I was just scared. He looked at her. Scared? What? That I will love you and that I will lose you. Wendy. Don't go, Jason. Don't leave me. Wendy, I can't stay in this house, knowing that you don't feel the same about me. I love you, Jason. I don't think I can deny it anymore, she said. Jason was stunned. What about your husband? He knows too. Ray and I had an unspoken agreement about you and me, but now I want everything out in the open. What does it mean? This means that I am going to accept you as my lover. I love my husband, but he will have to share me with you. She lifted his face and kissed him. She dreamed about him for 2 weeks, and now she finally gave in to her desires. I'll take care of you. They had sex. You can come in, honey, she said. The door creaked and Ray entered. Get a bite to eat, Jason. We'll be there soon. Oh, okay, mister. Or rather, Ray. Jason didn't bother getting dressed. Wendy made love to her husband. It took 6 months, but the men finally worked out the perfect system to share her. From Monday to Thursday, Jason slept in her bed and Ray slept in the guest room. My husband didn't care. The job was so stressful that he just wanted to relax with a book and a beer, even if it was to the sounds of his wife having sex with another man in the next room. Besides, from Friday to Sunday, Wendy was Ray's only. Wendy couldn't understand how she came to this. She didn't know how she managed to get the most loving husband and the hottest young lover. But as she lay in her bed, she promised herself to never take it for granted. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.